In a world that never stops, where the rhythm of life is dictated by deadlines, notifications, and the endless pursuit of productivity, why did God command us to rest? It's a question that might seem counterintuitive in today's hustle culture, where taking a break is often seen as a luxury rather than a necessity. Yet right there in the heart of the Bible, we find this ancient, almost radical command, rest. But what does this mean for us today? And why is it so important that God included it in the Ten Commandments? The concept of the Sabbath originates in the very beginning, in the creation story itself. Genesis 2:2-3 tells us that after 6 days of creating the heavens and the earth, God rested on the seventh day. Now pause for a moment. Imagine that. The almighty creator of the universe took a break. If God, who is all-powerful, chose to rest, what does that say about our need for rest? It's as if God is setting a precedent, showing us that rest isn't just a break from work, it's a vital part of the rhythm of life. And then, of course, there's the Sabbath as we find it in the Ten Commandments. Exodus 20:8-11 commands, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work." This isn't just a suggestion, it's a command. But it's not merely about refraining from work. There's a deeper significance that touches on physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Now here's where things get a bit complicated in modern times. There's been a long-standing debate over whether the Sabbath should be observed on Saturday or Sunday. Some Christians, particularly Seventh-day Adventists, believe the Sabbath should be kept on Saturday, following the Jewish tradition. Others argue that Sunday is the proper day of rest in honor of Christ's resurrection. And let's be honest, this can lead to a bit of confusion. I mean, have you ever found yourself wondering if you're supposed to be resting or worshiping on a particular day, or maybe questioning if it really matters? Yeah, me too. Personally, I've had those moments where I've planned a rest day and ended up busier than ever. The phone keeps ringing, emails keep coming in, and before you know it, the day that was supposed to be restful has turned into just another workday. It's almost like the world doesn't want us to stop. And maybe that's why the Sabbath is so crucial. It's a divine interruption, a reminder that we're not machines. We're not meant to run nonstop. The Sabbath, then, isn't just a day off. It's a countercultural act of resistance against the relentless pace of modern life. It's a day to step back, breathe, and reconnect with God, with ourselves, and with the people around us. It's about creating space for what truly matters, in a world that constantly tries to fill every moment with something else. But there's more to this ancient command than meets the eye. It's not just about taking a break. It's about aligning ourselves with a rhythm that's woven into the very fabric of creation. The Sabbath is connected to our physical health, our mental clarity, and our spiritual vitality. It's not just a nice idea, it's essential for a balanced life. So as we dive deeper into the significance of the Sabbath, we'll explore how this ancient practice can bring profound meaning to our lives today. We'll unravel the mystery of the Sabbath, its purpose, and why it's more relevant now than ever. Stick around, because you might just find that the Sabbath holds the key to a richer, more fulfilling life, one that honors God's design and offers us the rest we desperately need. The Sabbath has its roots deeply embedded in Scripture, with verses that not only command its observance, but also reveal the profound reasons behind it. In Exodus 20:8-11, we find one of the most well-known directives. "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work." This isn't just a casual suggestion, it's a clear, emphatic command. But why? What's the purpose behind this divine mandate for rest? Now, to understand the importance of the Sabbath, we need to explore its origins and the context in which it was given. In Exodus, the Sabbath is tied directly to the creation narrative. God rested on the seventh day after creating the world. It's as if God was saying, if I, the creator of the universe, took a day to rest, surely you, my creation, need one too. This wasn't just about physical rest, though that's certainly a part of it. It was about setting aside time to step back from the demands of life, to reflect, to worship, and to reconnect with God. But the significance of the Sabbath doesn't end there. Deuteronomy 5:12-15 gives us another layer of understanding. Here, the Sabbath is linked to the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. The Sabbath, then, is not just about rest. It's also about freedom. It's a reminder of God's deliverance, a weekly celebration of the fact that they were no longer slaves bound to endless labor. Now let's step back and think about this in the context of ancient Israel. Imagine a culture where the rhythm of life was marked by the Sabbath, a day of rest that set the Israelites apart from the surrounding nations. While other peoples may have worked relentlessly, the Israelites had a day set aside for rest and worship, a day that symbolized their unique relationship with God. It was a powerful statement of identity and faith. In a way, the Sabbath was a social equalizer as well. On this day, everyone rested, masters and servants, rich and poor, even the animals. It was a day when the usual social hierarchies were put on pause, and everyone stood equal before God, united in their need for rest and their dependence on Him. But what does all of this mean for us today? In our modern world, where work never seems to end and the line between professional and personal life is increasingly blurred, the wisdom of the Sabbath feels more relevant than ever. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness, where taking a break is often seen as a sign of weakness or laziness. Yet here is this ancient command that says, stop, rest, reflect. It's a radical concept in today's hustle-driven society, but one that could transform the way we live. Think about it. How would the Israelites, with their structured day of rest, react if they saw our modern work culture? Would they be baffled by our insistence on being constantly on and available? Or perhaps they'd shake their heads at the way we equate our worth with our productivity. The Sabbath was designed to counteract this very mentality. It was God's way of reminding His people that they are more than their work, that their identity is rooted in their relationship with Him, not in their daily grind. This brings us to a crucial point. The Sabbath isn't just about taking a day off. It's about trusting God. It's about believing that the world will keep turning even if we stop working for a day. It's about acknowledging that we are not in control, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's liberating. The Sabbath invites us into a space where we can let go of our need to always be doing and simply be. It's a reminder that our value comes not from our productivity, but from being children of God. So as we continue to explore the Sabbath, we'll see that it's not just an ancient tradition, but a timeless gift. It's a day that speaks to our deepest needs in a world that never seems to stop. And perhaps, just perhaps, it's a practice that can help us find balance, peace, and a deeper connection with God in the midst of our busy lives. Stay with me as we delve further into this divine day of rest and discover the many ways it can enrich our lives today. In today's fast-paced world, the idea of slowing down seems almost alien. Everywhere you look, the hustle is glorified. We live in a time where the stock markets open early and close late, where the foreign exchange markets are constantly buzzing with activity, and where major cities like New York earn the title of the city that never sleeps. It's a world where time is money and every second counts. Take the foreign exchange, Forex market, for example. It's the largest and most liquid financial market in the world, operating 24 hours a day across different time zones. Traders are always on the move, watching currency pairs fluctuate, making split-second decisions that could mean profit or loss. It's a high-stakes game where sleep is often sacrificed for the next big trade. The same goes for the stock exchange, where the opening bell is eagerly anticipated and fortunes can change in an instant. In these environments, the idea of taking a day off seems not just impractical, but almost laughable. Who has time to rest when the market never stops moving? Then there's the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, known for their entrepreneurial spirit and relentless work ethic. The Igbo people are often referred to as one of the most industrious tribes in Africa, with a culture that highly values business acumen and financial independence. For many Igbos, the hustle isn't just a means to an end, it's a way of life. From trading in bustling markets to running small businesses, they are always on the move, always striving for success. In this context, rest can often feel like a luxury that few can afford. And what about New York City? The very essence of the city is encapsulated in the phrase, the city that never sleeps. Here, the streets are alive at all hours, with people hustling from one place to another, coffee in hand as they chase their dreams. It's a place where ambition is celebrated, where the grind is part of the culture. The bright lights of Times Square, the constant flow of traffic, the endless stream of people, it all speaks to a world in perpetual motion. In New York, the Sabbath is often overshadowed by the demands of the week ahead, as people focus more on their to-do lists than on taking a moment to breathe. In many ways, the modern world is one that never truly rests. With technology at our fingertips, we are always connected, always reachable, and always on. The boundaries between work and life have blurred as emails and messages ping us at all hours, pulling us back into the fray, no matter where we are. The idea of a Sabbath, a full day of rest, free from work and distractions, feels almost like a relic of the past, a quaint tradition that doesn't quite fit with the demands of the 21st century. But in this relentless pursuit of productivity, something important is being lost. The Sabbath isn't just about taking a break from work, it's about creating space for what truly matters. It's about pausing long enough to reflect, to connect with God, and to nurture our souls. It's about recognizing that life is more than just the sum of our achievements, that our worth isn't measured by how much we produce, but by who we are as individuals created in the image of God. Yet in a world that glorifies the hustle, the Sabbath is often the first thing to go. We tell ourselves that we'll rest when the work is done, but the work is never really done, is it? There's always another task, another deadline, another opportunity to chase. And so we keep pushing, keep striving until we're running on empty, wondering why we feel so disconnected, so exhausted, so overwhelmed. The truth is, the pace of modern life is unsustainable without rest. We are not machines. We are human beings with limits, and those limits are there for a reason. The Sabbath is God's gift to us, a reminder that we are not defined by our work, that it's okay to stop, to breathe, to be still. But as the world speeds up, the Sabbath is increasingly seen as a luxury we can't afford, rather than a necessity we desperately need. It's easy to get caught up in the race, to believe that if we just keep going a little longer, we'll finally get ahead. But at what cost? What do we lose when we neglect the Sabbath? Not just our health, but our sense of balance, our connection with God, and our ability to truly enjoy the life He has given us. So as we explore the importance of the Sabbath, we must ask ourselves, in a world that never stops, how can we reclaim the rest that God intended for us? How can we find a rhythm that honors both our need for work and our need for rest? These are the questions we'll delve into as we continue our journey into the heart of the Sabbath. In today's digital age, staying relevant is practically a full-time job, especially if your business or service is online. Social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok never sleep, and neither do the people creating content for them. Whether you're an influencer, a small business owner, or just someone trying to build a personal brand, the pressure to constantly produce, post, and engage can feel overwhelming. The algorithms reward those who are consistent, who post regularly, who engage with followers, because in the fast-paced world of the internet, out of sight truly means out of mind. It's a 24/7 cycle that can easily consume you. You wake up, you check your notifications, you think about what to post next, and before you know it, the day is over and you're still glued to your screen. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, likes, comments, shares, because they give a tangible sense of accomplishment. But at what point does the pursuit of relevance become detrimental to your well-being? Imagine trying to keep up with the demand for constant content creation while also balancing the rest of your life. Family, friends, hobbies, personal growth. It's like running on a treadmill that never slows down, let alone stops. And if you do take a break, there's always that nagging fear. What if I lose momentum? What if people forget about me? This is where the Sabbath comes in and why its spiritual significance is more crucial than ever. The Sabbath is not just about physical rest, it's about spiritual renewal, a time to step away from the noise and reconnect with what truly matters. In the Bible, the Sabbath is portrayed as a gift from God, a sacred space carved out in time for rest and worship, a pause button in a world that's always on the move. When Jesus spoke about the Sabbath, he emphasized its purpose over its strict observance. In Mark 2:27, he said, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." This wasn't just a statement about rules and regulations. It was a profound reminder that the Sabbath is meant to serve us, to meet our needs for rest and connection with God. Jesus redefined the Sabbath, not as a day burdened with legalistic restrictions, but as an opportunity for renewal, physically, mentally, and spiritually. But here's the thing. In our modern world, neglecting the Sabbath doesn't just mean skipping a day of rest. It means risking spiritual burnout. Constantly being on, especially in the realm of social media, can lead to a profound disconnection from the things that truly matter. You might be gaining followers, but are you losing sight of your own well-being in the process? Think about it. When was the last time you truly unplugged? No emails, no notifications, no content creation. Just you resting in God's presence. It's not easy, especially when the world tells you that success depends on never stopping. But this is exactly why the Sabbath is so important. It's a countercultural practice that says, it's okay to stop. It's okay to rest. It's okay to just be. So as you think about your own life, your work, your responsibilities, your endless to-do lists, consider how you observe the Sabbath, if at all. Is it a day you look forward to, or just another day to catch up on tasks? What changes could you make to experience the full benefits of this divine gift? Perhaps it starts with small steps, setting aside a few hours on a Sunday to unplug, to rest, to reconnect with God and with yourself. Or maybe it's about rethinking your priorities, recognizing that your value isn't tied to your productivity, but to who you are as a child of God. As we continue to explore the spiritual significance of the Sabbath, remember that it's not just about taking a break from work, it's about finding true rest in the presence of the one who created you. In a world that never stops, the Sabbath invites you to pause, to breathe, and to remember that you are more than the sum of your achievements. It's a call to slow down, to step off the treadmill, and to rest in the assurance that God is in control, even when you're not producing content, even when the world keeps spinning without you. The Sabbath isn't just about personal rest. It's also about the rest of the community. It's a principle rooted deeply in social justice, one that underscores God's concern for equality and compassion. When God commanded the Israelites to observe the Sabbath, he wasn't just thinking about individuals needing a break from work. He was also thinking about the servants, the animals, and even the land itself. Everyone and everything deserved a day of rest, regardless of their social status or purpose. Imagine this. In a society where everyone is racing to get ahead, constantly pushing themselves and others to the limit, God steps in and says, "No, today you stop. Today, everyone rests." It's a radical concept, especially when you consider that this command extended to the most vulnerable members of society, servants who might otherwise be worked to the bone, and animals that would be driven without pause. Even the land, which was tilled and harvested, was given a rest every 7 years, in what is known as the Sabbath year. The Sabbath is, at its core, an expression of God's desire for equality and compassion. It's a reminder that in God's eyes, all of creation is valuable, and no one, no person, no creature, no piece of land should be exploited without reprieve. The Sabbath levels the playing field, ensuring that everyone, from the highest to the lowest, from the strongest to the weakest, gets the rest they need. Now let's fast forward to today. We live in a world that often seems to have forgotten this principle. Fair labor practices are still a hotly debated issue. Mental health is more recognized, but many still struggle to find the rest they need. And the environment? Well, we're seeing the consequences of pushing the land too hard. too fast, without giving it a chance to recover. What if we could apply the principles of the Sabbath to these modern challenges? What if, instead of seeing rest as a luxury, we saw it as a right? Not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Imagine a world where companies are committed to fair labor practices, ensuring that employees aren't overworked or underpaid, where mental health is prioritized and everyone has the opportunity to take the time they need to recharge, without stigma or shame, where environmental sustainability isn't just a trend, but a commitment to giving the earth the rest it needs, so it can continue to sustain us. This is where the Sabbath comes into play as more than just a day off. It's a blueprint for a just society, one where rest is respected and protected, not just for the privileged few, but for everyone. In a world where inequality and exploitation often seem to be the norm, the Sabbath stands as a powerful reminder that God's kingdom operates on different principles. It's a kingdom where the last will be first, where the meek will inherit the earth, and where everyone, no matter their status, deserves rest. So let's think about this together. How would our society change if we truly embraced the principles of the Sabbath? What if we insisted on rest as a matter of justice, ensuring that no one is pushed beyond their limits, that no land is exhausted beyond its capacity to renew itself? It's a challenging thought, but it's also a hopeful one, because the Sabbath is not just a command, it's a vision of a world where everyone gets to experience the peace and restoration that comes from true rest. Maybe you've experienced this in your own life, a time when you or someone you know finally took that much-needed break and saw everything change. Perhaps it was a weekend away that brought clarity, or a day off that provided the energy to keep going. These moments remind us of the power of rest, not just for our bodies, but for our souls. And they show us that the Sabbath isn't just a relic of the past. It's a principle we need now more than ever. So as you go about your week, think about how you can incorporate these Sabbath principles into your life. Maybe it's about making sure you're not just resting yourself, but advocating for the rest of others. Maybe it's about taking that first step towards a more balanced, just and compassionate way of living. And maybe, just maybe, it's about realizing that in God's kingdom, rest isn't just a break from work. It's an act of love and justice that reflects His heart for all creation. The Sabbath is observed in many different ways across Christian traditions, each with its own unique understanding and practice. For Seventh-day Adventists, the Sabbath is kept on Saturday, in line with the original commandment in Exodus, and is seen as a day strictly dedicated to rest and worship. It's a day where the focus is on spiritual rejuvenation, family, and refraining from work, anything that might detract from honoring God's creation. On the other hand, most Christians observe the Sabbath on Sunday, reflecting the resurrection of Jesus, which took place on the first day of the week. This shift from Saturday to Sunday was established early in Christian history, largely influenced by the belief that Christ's resurrection marked the beginning of a new creation. So for many Christians, Sunday has become the Lord's Day, a time for gathering in worship, enjoying community, and ideally taking a break from the regular grind. These different observances highlight a broader diversity within Christianity itself. Theological reasons behind these practices vary. For some, it's about maintaining the traditional Jewish Sabbath as a day of rest and remembrance, as God intended from the beginning. For others, it's about celebrating the new covenant through Christ, a new beginning that the resurrection signifies. And then there are those who argue that the specific day isn't as important as the principle behind it, resting and reconnecting with God, regardless of whether it's Saturday or Sunday. This perspective is more flexible, focusing on the intent of the Sabbath rather than rigidly adhering to a particular day. But what happens when these traditions clash with modern society? In today's pluralistic world, where businesses often stay open 7 days a week and societal expectations push people to work nonstop, observing the Sabbath can be challenging. There's tension between religious freedom and the demands of a fast-paced, consumer-driven culture. Some people might feel pressured to work on their Sabbath day, whether due to economic necessity or societal expectations, leading to spiritual and physical burnout. The challenge becomes finding a way to honor this day of rest without completely withdrawing from the realities of modern life. There's also controversy within the Christian community about how strictly the Sabbath should be observed. Should it be a day of total rest, with no work or recreational activities allowed? Or should it be a more relaxed observance, focused on worship and family time, with some flexibility for personal enjoyment? These debates often reflect deeper theological differences about the nature of worship, the role of tradition, and the interpretation of Scripture. As we delve deeper into this topic, it becomes clear that the way we observe the Sabbath, or fail to observe it, has significant spiritual and communal implications. Neglecting the Sabbath can lead to a sense of disconnection from God, a loss of community, and even a decline in mental and physical well-being. The Sabbath isn't just about taking a break. It's about creating space for God in our lives, for community, and for ourselves. Without this time, we risk losing sight of what truly matters. Consider the humor in how different cultures or denominations approach rest. In some places, rest might mean a Sunday afternoon nap after church, a ritual cherished and passed down through generations. In others, it might be a full day spent in nature, away from the hustle and bustle, reconnecting with creation. And in still others, it might involve communal meals, singing, or even a lively debate over theological points, all in the spirit of keeping the Sabbath holy. Each tradition has its own quirks and customs, making the Sabbath an incredibly diverse practice within the global Christian community. As we navigate these differences and challenges, it's important to remember that the Sabbath is ultimately a gift, a time set apart by God for rest, reflection, and renewal. Reclaiming the Sabbath in a way that is meaningful and accessible for today's believers is not just about adhering to tradition. It's about recognizing the deep need for rest in our lives and the profound impact it can have on our relationship with God, with others, and with ourselves. So how do we make the Sabbath relevant again? How do we create a culture where rest is valued and protected, where the principles of the Sabbath are lived out in a way that honors both tradition and the realities of modern life? These are questions worth exploring as we seek to reclaim the Sabbath as a vital part of our spiritual practice. Imagine a world where, just for one day, the clock stops ticking, the hustle pauses, and everyone breathes deeply and intentionally. No deadlines looming over you, no frantic emails demanding your attention, and no endless to-do lists waiting to be checked off. It's a day carved out for nothing but rest, reflection, and renewal. Sounds like a dream, right? But it's not just a fantasy. It's the gift of the Sabbath, a sanctuary in time that offers us a reprieve from the relentless pace of life. In our modern world, where everything seems to be in a constant race against the clock, the concept of taking a full day to rest feels almost radical. But here's the thing. Science has confirmed what the Bible has been teaching all along. Rest isn't just good for the soul, it's absolutely essential for our bodies and minds. Countless studies have shown that people who regularly take time to rest experience lower levels of stress, improved mental health, and overall better well-being. It's almost as if the Sabbath was an ancient prescription for the very modern ailment of burnout. Consider how literature has echoed this truth. In John Steinbeck's East of Eden, we see characters who are so caught up in the drive to succeed and prove themselves that they lose sight of what truly matters: family, love, and their own inner peace. It's only when they take a step back and reflect that they begin to understand the importance of balance and rest. The Sabbath, in many ways, is a call to remember this balance. It's a weekly invitation to step out of the chaos and into a place of quiet, where we can hear the still, small voice of God reminding us of who we are and what we need. Or take the movie Chariots of Fire, which tells the true story of Eric Liddell, a devout Christian who refused to compete in the Olympics on a Sunday because he believed in honoring the Sabbath. Liddell's conviction was not just about following rules. It was about recognizing that his identity and success were not defined by worldly achievements, but by his faithfulness to God. His story is a powerful reminder that sometimes true strength lies not in pushing forward, but in knowing when to rest. Think about the classic song Manic Monday by the Bangles. It's a catchy tune, but it also highlights the stress and strain that comes with the start of the work week, a feeling many of us know all too well. Imagine if, instead of dreading Mondays, we looked forward to a Sabbath, a day that isn't manic but peaceful, a day that recharges us for the week ahead. It's a rhythm that allows us to work from rest rather than constantly working to exhaustion. But the Sabbath isn't just about taking a break, it's about something deeper. It's about reconnecting with what truly matters, our relationship with God, our relationships with others, and our own inner selves. The Sabbath offers a chance to step away from the noise of the world and listen to the whispers of the divine. It's a day to realign our priorities, to remember that our worth isn't measured by our productivity, but by our connection to the Creator. Let's dive into some real-life stories that illustrate this. In Loma Linda, California, there's a community of Seventh-day Adventists who are known for their long, healthy lives. Loma Linda is one of the world's blue zones, where people live significantly longer than average, and many attribute this longevity to their observance of the Sabbath. For these Adventists, the Sabbath is a time for rest, worship, and community, a day to focus on spiritual and physical well-being. They've discovered that this rhythm of life not only honors God, but also leads to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Then there's the story of a corporate executive who was always on the go, juggling high-stakes meetings, deadlines, and international travel. For years, he believed that taking a day off was a sign of weakness, something that would set him back in his career. But after suffering from severe burnout, he decided to start observing the Sabbath. Every week, he would unplug from work, spend time with his family, and engage in activities that nourished his soul. The change was remarkable. Not only did his stress levels drop, but he found that he was more creative and productive during the week. The Sabbath became his secret weapon for success, a day that allowed him to recharge and refocus, ultimately leading to greater achievements. Or consider the story of a single mother who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. Every day was a struggle to balance work, parenting, and personal time. She rarely had a moment to herself, and the constant pressure was taking a toll on her health and well-being. A friend suggested she try observing the Sabbath, a day to step away from the busyness and focus on rest and renewal. Though skeptical at first, she gave it a try. On her first Sabbath, she took her children to the park, enjoyed a leisurely meal, and spent time in quiet prayer. That day of rest became a lifeline for her, a time when she could let go of her worries and find peace. It wasn't just a day off, it was a day of healing. These stories highlight a powerful truth. The Sabbath isn't just about following a commandment, it's about embracing a gift. It's about recognizing that we were not created to run on empty, to be constantly driven by the demands of life. We were created for rest, for connection, for moments of stillness where we can hear the voice of God and remember who we are in Him. But in our 24/7 culture, taking a day of rest can feel almost impossible. We live in a world where social media never sleeps, where the pressure to stay relevant and engaged is constant, especially if your business or service is online. The digital world has created a sense of urgency that can make the idea of stepping away for a full day seem unthinkable. But what if we saw the Sabbath not as a day of restriction, but as a day of liberation? A day to free ourselves from the constant demands of life and focus on what truly matters. The Sabbath offers a countercultural rhythm, a chance to push back against the relentless pace of the world and embrace a slower, more intentional way of living. It's a day to disconnect from the noise and reconnect with God, with ourselves, and with our loved ones. It's a reminder that our value isn't tied to what we produce, but to who we are, children of God, worthy of rest and renewal. This is where the emotional connection comes in. The Sabbath isn't just about rest, it's about restoration. It's about finding balance in a world that often pulls us in 1,000 different directions. It's about taking a deep breath and remembering that we are more than our work, more than our achievements, more than the sum of our to-do lists. The Sabbath is a gift, a time to reset and recharge, to find balance and peace. So how does this resonate with you? Have you experienced the benefits of taking a day of rest? Has the Sabbath brought you peace, balance, or renewed energy? We'd love to hear your stories. Share how observing the Sabbath has impacted your life, and let's create a community of support and encouragement. After all, we're all in this together, and by sharing our experiences, we can help each other find the rest and renewal we need. Remember, the Sabbath isn't just a day off, it's a day off for your well-being. It's an ancient practice with modern relevance, a divine invitation to step away from the busyness of life and find true rest. So why not give it a try? You might just find that the rest you've been searching for has been waiting for you all along. Let's talk about something we all struggle with: finding time to rest in a world that never seems to stop moving. I mean, we've got smartphones buzzing constantly, emails piling up, social media notifications pulling us in every direction. And that's before we even start thinking about work, family, and all the other responsibilities that fill up our days. So when we start talking about taking a whole day off just to rest and recharge, it might sound downright impossible. But maybe, just maybe, it's exactly what we need. Now let's get practical. How do we reclaim the Sabbath in our modern, fast-paced lives? The idea of setting aside an entire day might seem daunting, especially if your schedule is packed to the brim. But here's the thing: reclaiming the Sabbath doesn't have to mean shutting down your entire life for 24 hours. It's about creating space for rest, reflection, and renewal, even if it's in smaller, more manageable ways. One way to start might be by carving out a few hours each week where you intentionally step away from the hustle. Turn off your phone, close your laptop, and focus on something that brings you peace. Whether that's a walk in nature, reading a good book, or simply spending quality time with family and friends. It doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to be intentional. Think of it as a mini Sabbath, a small but significant step toward reclaiming the rest that God designed us to enjoy. And here's a fun challenge. What if you tried to get your community involved? Whether it's your family, a group of friends, or your church, observing the Sabbath together can create a powerful sense of connection and support. Maybe it's a weekly potluck where everyone brings a dish, and you all take time to relax, eat, and enjoy each other's company without the distractions of the outside world. Or perhaps it's a regular gathering where you share what's been on your heart and mind throughout the week, encouraging one another to rest in God's presence. It's important to remember that the Sabbath isn't just a personal practice, it's a communal one. The Bible shows us that the Sabbath was intended for everyone, for families, for communities, even for the land itself. There's something profoundly restorative about coming together with others to rest and recharge. It reminds us that we're not alone in this journey, that we're all in need of the same renewal, and that we can support one another in finding it. And let's be real, observing the Sabbath in today's world isn't always easy. We're constantly connected, constantly plugged in, and it can feel like stepping away for even a moment means falling behind. But here's the secret. When you actually take that time to rest, you're not falling behind. You're refueling. You're preparing yourself to face the week ahead with renewed energy, focus, and a deeper sense of peace. It's not about escaping your responsibilities. It's about embracing the rhythm of rest that allows you to fulfill them even better. Here's where inspiration comes in. Think about the words of Jesus in Matthew 11:28-30, where he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." These words aren't just a nice sentiment. They're an invitation to step into the kind of rest that only God can provide. They remind us that the Sabbath is more than a rule. It's a gift, a lifeline for weary souls. And let's not forget the importance of laughter along the way. I mean, let's face it, unplugging for a day can be a bit of a challenge, especially in a world where we're all so used to being constantly connected. Have you ever tried to take a break from your phone, only to find yourself reaching for it out of habit? It's like we're programmed to be on all the time, but maybe that's all the more reason to embrace the Sabbath, to laugh at ourselves a little as we fumble through the process, and to remember that perfection isn't the goal. Rest is. So what's your next step? How will you reclaim the Sabbath in your life? Maybe it starts with setting aside a few hours this week to unplug and unwind. Or perhaps it's about gathering with loved ones to share in the joy of rest together. Whatever it looks like for you, remember that the Sabbath is a gift, one that's waiting for you to unwrap and enjoy. As you think about how to incorporate the Sabbath into your routine, don't forget to share your journey with others. How has taking a day of rest impacted your life? Have you found new ways to connect with God, with yourself, or with your community through this practice? We'd love to hear your stories and tips, so drop a comment below and let's start a conversation about how we can all reclaim the Sabbath in our own lives. As we come to the end of this deep dive into the importance of the Sabbath, it's clear that this ancient practice is more relevant than ever in our modern, fast-paced world. The Sabbath isn't just an outdated rule. It's a profound invitation to step out of the relentless cycle of work and busyness and into a rhythm of rest, reflection, and renewal. Imagine for a moment what your life might look like if you fully embrace this gift, if you set aside time each week to disconnect from the hustle, reconnect with what truly matters, and recharge your mind, body, and spirit. As we delve deeper into reclaiming the Sabbath in our modern lives, it's important to recognize that this sacred day of rest isn't exclusive to one faith tradition. Across the globe, people of various religions and cultures have recognized the profound need for rest and reflection. In Judaism, the Sabbath or Shabbat is observed from Friday evening to Saturday evening, a time for family, community, and spiritual renewal. The traditional Friday night dinner, filled with the warmth of candles, the blessing over the bread and wine, and the shared laughter around the table, paints a picture of what Sabbath rest can truly look like. It's not just about stopping work. It's about coming together, about reconnecting with what really matters. Now, if we travel eastward, we see that in Islam, Friday is a special day as well. Known as Jumu'ah, it's a day for congregational prayers and reflection, a time when Muslims come together in mosques to listen to sermons that rejuvenate their spirits. It's a reminder that even in the hustle and bustle of daily life, setting aside time for spiritual growth is crucial. But it's not just the Abrahamic faiths that see the value in rest. In Hinduism, many observe certain days of the week dedicated to rest and worship of specific deities. In Buddhism, meditation days, or upasatha, are seen as times to rest the mind and renew one's commitment to the spiritual path. These practices across various religions highlight that the need for rest is not just a Christian concept, it's a universal one, deeply woven into the fabric of human spirituality. Yet despite the universal understanding of rest, many of us struggle with the idea of actually taking time off. We live in a world that glorifies busyness, where success is often measured by how much we can cram into our day. And with that comes the guilt of resting, the guilt of not doing enough. It's as if we've forgotten that we are human beings, not human doings. But the Sabbath challenges this narrative. It's a divine permission slip to rest, to let go of that guilt, and to simply be. It reminds us that rest is not a luxury, but a necessity. So if you've been feeling guilty about taking a break, perhaps it's time to reframe that thinking. You see, the Sabbath isn't just about sitting still and doing nothing. It's about engaging in activities that renew your spirit, that bring joy, and that deepen your connection with yourself, with others, and with God. So what can you do on the Sabbath besides the traditional practices of worship and prayer? How about a nature walk? There's something profoundly spiritual about stepping away from the screens and breathing in the fresh air, listening to the rustle of the leaves and feeling the earth beneath your feet. Nature has a way of reminding us of the beauty and simplicity of life, something that's often lost in our daily grind. Or perhaps journaling is more your speed. Taking time to reflect on the week, to jot down your thoughts, prayers, and gratitude can be a powerful way to reconnect with your inner self. And if you're feeling creative, why not try your hand at some art? Drawing, painting, or even crafting can be incredibly therapeutic, a way to express yourself and unwind. Volunteering is another fantastic way to spend the Sabbath. Giving back to your community not only helps others, but can also fill your own soul with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Imagine spending your Sabbath morning helping at a local food bank or visiting a nursing home. The smiles you bring to others' faces can be the perfect way to celebrate this day of rest. And for those who are musically inclined, why not spend some time playing an instrument or singing? Music has a way of lifting the spirit like nothing else. Even if you're just humming a tune while you prepare a meal, let that be your way of honoring the Sabbath. Reading is another great Sabbath activity. Whether it's diving into a novel that's been sitting on your shelf or exploring spiritual texts that inspire and challenge you, reading can be a way to rest and grow simultaneously. And if you're reading this script, I'm sure you're already someone who enjoys a good book or an engaging story. Cooking can also be a delightful way to spend the Sabbath. Preparing a meal with love and care, perhaps trying out a new recipe, can be a form of meditation. And of course, there's nothing quite like sharing that meal with loved ones, enjoying good food, and even better company. Gardening, too, can be a wonderful Sabbath activity. Tending to plants, watching them grow, and enjoying the fruits of your labor, quite literally if you have a vegetable garden, can be a grounding and peaceful way to connect with the earth. If you're looking to deepen your spiritual practice, consider spending part of your Sabbath in meditation or contemplation. Whether you're sitting quietly in a dedicated space or simply being mindful as you go about your day, meditation can bring a sense of peace and clarity that carries into the rest of the week. And let's not forget the joy of simply resting. Sometimes the best way to honor the Sabbath is to take a nap, to allow your body the rest it needs, guilt-free. After all, if God rested on the seventh day, why shouldn't we? Remember, the Sabbath is a gift. It's not about checking off a list of activities, but about finding what brings you rest, joy, and renewal. Whether that's spending time in nature, engaging in creative pursuits, or simply enjoying a moment of stillness, the Sabbath is your time to reconnect with what truly matters. So let go of the guilt, embrace the rest, and find your own unique way to celebrate this sacred day. As we move into the final phase of our discussion, let's reflect on how we can take these ideas and truly incorporate them into our lives. How can we, in our busy, modern world, reclaim the Sabbath as a day of rest, renewal, and spiritual growth? In today's society, where the pressure to stay constantly productive is overwhelming, the Sabbath offers us a countercultural opportunity to reclaim our time and focus on what's most important. It's not just about taking a break from work. It's about creating space for joy, peace, and spiritual connection. Whether you're observing the Sabbath on Saturday, Sunday, or simply finding your own sacred time during the week, the key is to approach it with intention and openness. So here's your challenge. In the coming week, I encourage you to try something new with your Sabbath observance. Maybe it's dedicating a few hours to completely unplug from technology. Maybe it's spending more quality time with loved ones. Or perhaps it's diving into a spiritual practice that nourishes your soul. Whatever it looks like for you, embrace the Sabbath as a gift, one that has the power to transform not just your week, but your entire life. And as you explore this practice, don't forget to share your experiences with us. How are you planning to observe the Sabbath this week? What challenges or insights have you encountered along the way? Your journey could inspire others to take that first step toward a more balanced and fulfilling life. So drop a comment below and let's continue this conversation together. If you found this discussion helpful, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content on faith, life, and everything in between. Click the notification bell so you never miss an update, and stay connected as we continue to explore how ancient wisdom can bring peace and purpose to our modern lives. And just for fun, let's imagine a world where everyone took the Sabbath seriously, where for one day each week, the entire planet just hit pause. What would happen? Would the internet finally take a break too? Would our inboxes stop overflowing? Maybe even the stock markets would take a rest. It's a humorous thought, but it also highlights the beauty of the Sabbath, a universal pause button that invites us all to breathe, reflect, and find peace in the stillness. Until next time, remember that the Sabbath is more than just a day off. It's a day on for your well-being. Let's embrace it together and discover the rest and renewal that come from taking God's invitation to heart. Stay curious, stay rested, and I'll see you in the next video.